Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBinge It. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 3, Episode 3, The Chute. This episode aired September 18th, 1996. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, which was the excellent episode called Flashback?
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
And tying it into the undiscovered country. Brilliant. I still feel cheated that we did not get a Sulu series of some kind.
Well, I'm afraid you're not going to get that.
Alas,
but,
no.
Yeah, we did talk about that. I think at the time, though, thinking about it, we probably just wanted Trek to continue.
Yeah, that's
true.
And
of course, it didn't. It went dark for a long time after this. Well, I have the notes this week, so should we get started on the Chute?
Yes.
In the cold open, we open in a dark, dingy prison with an alarm blaring and a group of prisoners dressed in rags shouting that a new prisoner is coming. And suddenly a hatch opens and a person is dumped down a long chute onto the floor. The new prisoner kind of rolls over and we see it's Harry Kim, dressed in civilian clothes.
Yep.
He looks up at this sort of Mad Max bunch of dudes that are glaring at him. And it's pretty clear they all want to kill him. They pull him up and they start beating him up and throwing him around. And eventually he ends up face to face with Tom Paris, also in civilian clothes. Harry is very happy to see him. But unfortunately, Tom punches him in the stomach and Harry goes down. And we cue the theme song.
That was a very to the point and rather brutal opening.
Yeah, I mean, we call it a prison, but it's really just a bunch of guys crammed into one space. They don't have, like, their own cells. It looks pretty grim down there.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of set budget in this one.
Well, no, I guess they didn't need it.
My first comment here is, can't you just smell that place?
Oh, there were many times where I was like, oh, that doesn't smell good. Oh. Yes.
And when they do that shot of Harry on the ground with all the, as you described them, Mad Max people, one of them appears to be a Klingon. I mean, like full head ridges.
Well, several of them have ridges on their face, because that seems to be what the Akritirians are, the aliens we meet in this episode. But I did not notice someone who looked like a Klingon. I mean, it can't be a Klingon.
Yeah, 031 appeared to be a Klingon.
I'll have to go back and look. It probably is not a Klingon, though. I hate to disappoint you.
I'm sticking with he's a Klingon.
Okay. After the credits, Tom has a brief battle with another prisoner over Harry. I'm not sure if it's for the right to kill Harry or to own him somehow. It's unclear. Tom tells a story that this guy, meaning Harry, was his partner in the outside world in a bombing, but then this scum gave him up to the authorities, and that's why he's in prison now. There's a little scuffle, but eventually Tom wins Harry. Once they're alone in Tom's little corner of this cave/dungeon, whatever it is.
A dungeon's a good description.
Yeah, we learn that Tom's been there for a few days without food. They were supposed to be on shore leave, but somehow they got split up and accused of a bombing. They were convicted and drugged and dumped in this prison. There are no guards, so there's just chaos and fighting.
Yeah. So how did Tom seem to be in a better position here than Harry?
If he's only been there a few days.
Yeah. Is Tom a better fighter? I assume Tom talked his way into the current position?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. It just seems like they battle over resources, right? So if Tom maybe had to fight them off when they were probably trying to get his clothes or his boots or something, he must have won the fight.
Yeah.
And it's not even that Harry lost, because it wasn't until Tom punched him that he completely went down. And that was a sucker punch because Harry wasn't expecting it.
Tom has had some more experience with the Marquis, and he did have some time in a Federation jail.
I guess so, yeah.
Maybe Tom's just better in that kind of situation. I mean, he'd already spun a story.
That's true. I mean, we're supposed to believe a lot of things about Tom that aren't true, so might as well believe that one. Tom reveals an implant on the back of his head, a device called the clamp. He thinks it's a synaptic stimulator that's making him edgy because he just doesn't feel right. And also he says it itches. He's very anxious, saying they can't take the things out because he saw someone try and it killed him.
Right.
Tom spends a great deal of time in this episode itching his head, and it just makes me think that they're all covered in fleas.
Oh, gosh, that's the other thing. There's probably parasites everywhere.
Ugh. Yeah, it's nasty.
So, even at this point in the episode, I think there's a few things we need to discuss.
Okay.
A shore leave.
That's in my notes, yeah. It's in my overanalysis to talk about shore leave, because what are we doing?
Okay, we'll leave it till there.
Okay.
And the next thing is, I think Harry is showing just how much of a Federation citizen he really is, where he says, we have to explain to someone there's been a mistake.
Yeah.
Harry, authoritarian regimes tend not to work like that.
Yeah, they don't care about you, and there's no one to talk to. There are no guards. There's nothing down there. I mean, it doesn't look like they have the ability to bathe even. They have water, because Tom is drinking water, gives Harry water.
Yeah.
But we don't see that ever. It's pretty bad.
Right. I dread to think what the bathroom facilities are like.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Star Trek does a good job of making you not think about the bathroom. But yeah, where were they going to the bathroom? Oh, gross.
I believe it wasn't until First Contact that a bathroom reference was made in Star Trek.
Oh, no. That's funny. Well, now an alarm blares and everyone yells, food. But there is a raucous fight for a few bars of brown stuff that's dropped through the chute, and Harry and Tom end up with nothing.
They look just like my favorite brand of charcoal barbecue starter.
Oh, yeah, that could be what they are. In the chaos, someone tries to climb into the chute, but he is zapped and killed.
Yeah.
And there's a tall guy who cuts someone's throat and takes his food bar. It's just total mayhem.
It's a little bit of a brutal process there.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty jarring for Federation citizens. You know,
I would think so.
It makes me think of that time when Sisko ran into that race where capital punishment is the norm. And he was just outraged at the very idea of it.
Yeah.
Tom's had a little more world experience, but Harry's dropped into this where he watches someone get their throat cut right in front of him so a guy can get some, fire starters.
So he can chew on some fire starters.
Yeah.
Well, now we go to Voyager, and Janeway is reporting in a log that Tom and Harry have been missing for 72 hours. And the Akritirian authorities are denying them access to the surface, and they won't confirm if they were killed in the bombing.
Yeah.
An ambassador from the planet, played by Robert Pine, calls. This actor's been in 200 and some things, but he'll always be the guy from Chips for me.
Yes.
He can't be anybody else. Well, anyway, he's called to say that Harry and Tom are alive, but they were convicted of the bombing of the rec center.
Yeah.
Janeway says, nonsense. However, the ambassador reports that they found traces of the explosive on their hands and clothes, and the explosion was trilithium-based, which is a substance unavailable in this system. And then he says they were surprised to find that Voyager is powered by dilithium, which can be converted into trilithium.
Yes.
He says they've long suspected the open sky terrorists had off-world collaborators, and now this proves it. He tells Janeway to prepare to be boarded because the crew is under arrest, and they're going to impound Voyager.
Yep.
Janeway, of course, is like, well, screw you, raises her shields, navigates the hell out of the system really quickly, and they don't get what they want. But it seems like really they just wanted rid of Voyager, and it worked.
Right. I think Janeway is too nice. We have proved time and again the only thing that matters in the Delta Quadrant is force projection.
Yeah.
She should get the ambassador and say, hey, I'm going to give you an option. We're going to use photon torpedoes and nuke a few of your cities from orbit. Unless you return Harry and Tom.
Well, they're not really clear on the technological abilities of these aliens. I mean, we see two little ships kind of shooting at them, but do they have more? Do they have bigger ones? I mean, are they a threat? They don't really tell us.
I didn't really get that much of a feel that they're a big threat. Even if they don't do that, they could make a show of force.
They could make a show of force, yeah.
Right. I mean, Sisko was prepared to use biological weapons on a marquee world. So this is just small potatoes. We're going to blow up one of your moons unless you give your people back.
Well, I think we had a lot of complaints about Sisko doing that in that episode. And also,
I had an enormous amount of complaints.
That's not the Starfleet way. So they're not going to do that. I'm pretty sure you would be kicked out of Starfleet.
Well, no, I beat Section 31.
Oh, even worse.
Because there's another side of it as well. I wonder if the Akritirians have heard the stories about Voyager. Because they've been portrayed as these ruthless, cutthroat savages bringing, chaos and death in their wake. When you're dealing with what appears to be some kind of fascist regime, that could really work in your favor.
Yeah.
Like, we think like you. We act like you. You give our people back. What would you do in this situation?
Well, I mean, if we think about what happens in this episode, they find a way out pretty quickly. Yeah. If they hadn't, maybe they would have had to pursue something else. I think maybe they didn't get desperate enough.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that would be tough to do in a single episode.
Yeah.
If they were a serialized season, they could show stuff like that where they have to actually go outside of their values. But they've really worked hard to convince us that they're going to stay within Starfleet values.
That's true. I mean, I was thinking about them more putting on a show.
Yeah.
If you remember, like, in Discovery, Tilly playing the evil captain.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. You're playing the part. You're not actually this ruthless murderer.
Oh, yeah. When she goes, what the heck? Hell? What the hell? Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah, she played a great Terran commander.
Yeah, she did. Back to the pit. Tom and Harry split up to check out their surroundings. Tom finds about 50 prisoners, no food, and no way out. Harry also found nothing, and he's starting to feel the effects of the clamp because he's getting a little bit edgy.
Oh, yeah.
Tom did find a small pipe that he hopes Harry can use to rig a device and short out the force field of the chute, so at least they have a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
That's not going to last very long. Spoiler.
This scene also quite nicely demonstrates that Tom really is the master of gallows humor.
Yeah, that is his thing, I guess. He's kind of always that person who can tell a joke no matter what's happening.
Yeah, and I think this kind of demonstrates it.
Yeah.
I guess it's Tom's coping mechanism.
Yeah, I guess so. On Voyager, Janeway wants to concentrate on proving Harry and Tom's innocence, not on trying to rescue them.
That's very Federation. I feel that's a very Picardian kind of thing. We just need to prove they're innocent.
Yeah. But also, they have no idea where they're being held, so they don't even know where the rescue would be.
Yeah.
Because they keep scanning and they can't find them. She wants to find the source of the trilithium first, and B'Elanna suggests paralithium is something used as a fuel for some ion-based propulsion systems. She says that can be converted into trilithium, so it could be that. Janeway wants to find any nearby ships using it.
Paralithium. How many types of lithium are there?
As many words as they could think of.
We just think of a word, and then we put lithium after
Every
it.
letter of the alphabet. We've got beta lithium, alpha lithium,
bilithium,
cranium lithium,
Elvira lithium.
Elvira. Oh my gosh. Back to the pit, and Harry is trying to rig up his device, but he's very anxious and he just can't concentrate.
Oh yeah, he's really twitchy.
Tom starts getting him to think about food to try and focus his mind, and they start naming what they want to eat. I would think this would just make you hungrier, but
yeah.
Okay.
Tom does seem pretty good at keeping calm, and considering he's even had several more days of having the clamp on his head.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because Tom, for a lot of his life, has been more ill at ease, or has been around more cutthroat people, like Time in his Marquee, and he hangs out in seedy bars. So maybe he has a little bit more experience that can keep it under control.
I think he tends to not give up super easily.
Yeah.
He's got to know that Voyager is going to find them or try to find them. And also, he was in prison before, albeit a much cleaner, nicer prison.
Yeah.
But I think his life experiences maybe show here that he's just like, all right, we'll get there.
Okay.
You have to believe, too, that the clamp would have a different impact on different people, just depending upon your brain chemistry. So I would think people would just react differently.
So it's more likely just Tom's physiology than experience.
It might be.
Yeah.
And also maybe Harry's experience getting into the chute was more stressful. So he, came in with more, I don't know anything about brain science, but stuff going on in his brain that already had him agitated. And so he had a higher baseline.
Okay.
I'll be waiting for my honorary doctorate, I'm sure, any minute now. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean?
I get what you mean.
He was already worked
He's
out.
coming in a much more highly stressed state than Tom.
Yeah, because
maybe the clamp is actually affecting that.
Because maybe he was questioned longer.
Yeah.
Harry finally gets his device hooked up, but it zaps him and knocks him to the ground, which gets the attention of the Mad Max group with a big scuffle, and Tom gets stabbed in the stomach.
Oh.
Seems very bad.
He totally gets shanked.
Although the knives in this episode, every time they show somebody with a knife, I was like, that is the fakest knife I have ever seen. It literally looked like rubber.
Well, none of them seem to have an edge on them.
They had no edges. I mean, it was probably on purpose to show they had to make them themselves or something. I don't know, but they were the fakest looking knives I've ever seen. There's one scene where Harry is holding one up, like right by his face, so it's right in the screen, and it's just very funny.
It looked fine on a 19-inch CRT.
I'm sure. Well, Harry gets everyone to back off by flailing around with his pipe. He grabs Tom, and the tall guy from earlier says he'll either bleed to death or die from infection, which isn't helpful.
Yeah.
And then he asks what Harry wants for the dead man's boots. That really annoys Harry. He pushes the guy off and he drags Tom away. But unfortunately, some crazy people have taken over their little corner of the cave, and now they have nowhere to go.
Harry gives that up pretty quickly.
I know, he doesn't even fight for it, but they are acting like lunatics, which of course, that doesn't mean anything. They're just, it worked. It scared you away, I guess.
Right.
Well, Harry decides to make a deal with the tall guy, who seems to have a nice big space to himself.
Yes, the murdery guy who was killing people for firelighters.
Uh-huh. They go back and forth a bit, but eventually they agree Harry and Tom can stay in his little hovel in exchange for taking him with them when Harry gets the force field down.
Yeah, we also see that the murdery guy is writing something.
Yes, very intently. Back on Voyager, we have very quickly found a freighter powered by paralithium. It took no time.
Well, I assume these things move fairly slowly if they're using ion drive. I mean, it might just be trading with local systems, so...
But it's just funny, there's only 3 of them, and they found it, immediately. They found the ones who did it. But we only have 46 minutes. We got to keep it moving.
I also question Janeway's authority to stop and search vessels. Is that bordering on piracy of the open seas or open skies?
Well, we found that there are only 2 life forms aboard, so I think Janeway's feeling quite confident when she calls. And she tells them that they're trying to find the ship that was involved in this explosion back on the planet. But the captain pretty quickly hangs up. And B'Elanna says, meanwhile, she's been scanning and she found traces of trilithium on the ship, so they're probably the ones who made the bombs.
Chakotay does make a funny comment where he says, "It seems like you're not the only captain that doesn't want their ship boarded." And I feel Janeway's reply here should be, try saying something helpful, Chakotay.
Yeah, Chakotay doesn't have a lot to do in this episode. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Well, Janeway has no time for nonsense. She just beams them over against their will and she tractors their ship.
Well, as soon as they cut off the transmission, it was like, yeah, you know they're guilty.
Totally. And also the girl in the communication was acting very guilty. Now we meet the young guy and his even younger sister from the freighter. It turns out they sympathize with Open Sky, who we heard were the terrorists on the planet.
They're not terrorists, they're patriots.
Yeah, that's what the girl says. She's like, they're not terrorists. We have a little banter, but Janeway says she doesn't care about their politics, only that she wants her people acquitted and freed. Tuvok then comes in to say they found evidence of the explosives on the freighter, so they're definitely guilty.
Definitely guilty. Janeway does make the comment to the young guy of, I don't know much about your homeworld, and yet you let Harry and Tom have shore leave.
And let 2 people go on there? I know. What are you people doing? Janeway sends the prisoners to the brig, but the captain pleads for his 14-year-old sister to be released. He says no one ever gets out of prison on Akritiri, and she doesn't deserve to live her entire life there. I don't know, she's kind of mouthy. The girl says she's not afraid of prison, and she says she knows where the prison is, and with a ship like Voyager, they can attack. Janeway's like, that's not how we do things. And then the girl calls Janeway a coward. Okay, girl. Let's watch the smack talk when you are in a very weak position.
The look on Janeway's face when she says that is priceless.
Yes. It doesn't even make sense. In the context of the moment, I guess the girl thinks she should just become a part of this group, but she doesn't know. She just said she doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, Janeway's not amused.
Oh, no.
And she tells Tuvok to make sure these 2 get a bath and a hot meal. And I was like, oh, she says you stink.
You smelled like Neelix when he came aboard.
You smelled like Neelix. It's the only other person we've ever heard told needs a bath. Oh.
I feel Janeway could have told the young girl about the Prime Directive. They won't interfere in a planet's politics unless they like them. And they don't like them because they smell.
And they do not like them because they stink.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do feel like there's a lack of dialogue in this episode where we could have had a lot of conversations to try to talk through some options with these two and understand their plight. But she had no interest in that. And either you can look at it, I guess, as sort of a failing of the episode, or you could look at it like she was doing that on purpose because she didn't want to know. She was trying to keep her hands clean and she was just going to get her people out and she was just going to get the hell out of there, right? That was her plan. The less she knew, the better.
I would agree with your second option there. I think that this was very much a true prime directive moment. You're doing whatever you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. We've got caught up in this. We just want to resolve it. We're not going to solve your problems. We just want our people back. You kids, knock yourself out. Yeah. And I think you're right. There isn't a lot of dialogue. And I think that really leans towards, it sounds callous. Janeway doesn't care.
She just wants her people.
Yeah. She's got 1,000,000 problems. She doesn't want 1,000,001.
She also might be thinking that these two are not going to understand. And she's not going to get into a debate with them. I can understand that too. Like, I'm not here to argue about your politics because I don't know enough about it. But also, I don't care about your politics. Yeah. I have my own agenda and I'm just going to get out of here. I suppose just hearing the fact that on the planet they think Open Sky's terrorists and these people are a part of that, you immediately know that you don't want to get involved. You can't, because you can't talk either side out of their opinion.
Yeah, they might have very good reasons for believing what they do, and you could argue
they might.
The other side probably has exactly the same.
I mean, looking at how they treat their prisoners.
Yeah, it doesn't
put the Akritirians in the best light.
No.
But of course, she doesn't know that yet.
Right, she's unaware of all of that.
Right, so far.
And plus, the other side of it is even if these people tell you what's going on, they'll be telling you from their perspective.
Right, yeah. Back to the pit, and Harry has cleaned up Tom the best he can, but he's in bad shape. Tom wants Harry to agree to leave him behind if he gets the chance, but Harry doesn't really respond to that, and he goes back to trying to rig the force field.
Tom's being brave.
But he says his brain is buzzing like it's full of ants.
Fire ants.
Fire ants. The tall guy tries to give him a bunch of advice about using the agitation from the clamp to help him, but Harry doesn't know how to do that. And the tall guy says he's written a manifesto explaining his understanding of the clamp. Anytime anybody tells you they've written a manifesto, you just want to get away from them.
My note here says, oh God, he has a manifesto.
So the tall guy's manifesto is about the clamp.
Yeah.
He thinks it's a brilliant experiment and they're being studied like animals. It prevents them from getting along and cooperating, so it's a method to control the prison population.
Yeah.
No need for guards when they just kill each other off.
Right.
There's a shot here where this character is filmed from kind of below his chin upwards, where the ring of the chute's force field just behind him looks like a halo or a crown.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to do with this character. I'm not convinced whatever it was that it worked, because I didn't even notice that the first time I watched it.
I have notes on this. I think this is really brilliant. Because if you watch the whole of that scene, they do this slow tracking shot towards Mr. Manifesto until only his head is framed. And they pull focus. So it's just on his face. And with the orange glowing force field of the chute behind, and he's even looking towards the heavens, and he even rolls his eyes up. It's absolutely done deliberately because it looks like he has a halo and he's some kind of messianic figure. I think it comes off really well. It's sort of a shorthand way of showing you how this guy sees himself.
Okay.
Great visual device.
Interesting. I mean, I agree they were doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
It's clear that shot was on purpose, and it was pretty cool. But I'm not sure that they did a good job in the rest of the episode with that sort of messianic complex that he seems to have.
Yeah.
Because he's talking later about getting followers and changing everything, but he doesn't have a single follower. He can't even get Harry on his side. So I'm just not sure they did what they were trying to do.
I'm going to disagree. I think they do, because I think the thing is they're showing you how he sees himself. And when he talks to Harry...
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
This is not the reality, but it's how he perceives himself.
He's pretty sure, that he's the cult leader.
Yes.
Well, he definitely thinks he's superior to everyone, and he says it many times. He's like, it's why they leave me alone, why they respect me. It's like, is it? Or is it just because you're the tallest guy with the biggest knife?
I do feel, though, that Harry maybe should have listened to this guy to an extent. because he does seem to have figured out a way to overcome the clamp.
Yeah, but I don't think Harry can. I think that's part of the problem.
Oh.
He's not able to think clearly.
Yeah.
Right? Because even in this scene, he's just like, sure. He's kind of humoring him. And then later he says, oh my God, he was right.
Oh,
but
okay.
I just don't think he's in the right state.
Okay.
I think the clamp is preventing him from doing it. And everybody else in there has been in there a long time.
Yeah.
And so they've learned to adapt to the clamp. Harry's been in there a day.
Yeah.
Well, and don't forget, Tom is dying. So he's,
a heightened level of stress.
Exactly. Yeah. He's already heightened it. He probably came in with a heightened sense of stress. The thing gave him a more heightened sense of stress.
Yeah.
And then Tom got shanked. Now he's got a time thing. He's got to get them out of there.
Right.
So I'm not surprised he can't sit down and read this guy's manifesto.
So yeah, maybe he doesn't have the time to learn how to control it.
Yeah. Well, Harry, kind of humoring the guy while he talks, finally gets the force field down, and the two climb up the chute. At the top, they find a hatch, which Harry starts cleaning off because it's covered in dirt.
Yeah.
And bad news. We are not in a pit, but we are in space. We're in a prison space station, and there is no way out.
It's the big reveal. It's an awesome-looking space station. I love it when they do the pan out from Harry at the hatch. And you see it's a really big space station.
Oh, yeah.
And the way it looks sort of grimy and cruddy. Great feel. Really good.
Yeah, I have to say that moment was very cool. It was very dramatic, and it was unexpected, and it was a really good special effect.
What's funny is I'd totally forgotten about this. So watching that again...
Oh, you were surprised?
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're not underground. I will bring up one thing where Harry tells Mr. Manifesto to put his hand in the chute. He's like, I've disabled it. Really? After what it did to the other guy? Maybe you could throw something in first?
Or, Harry should have done it first. But the guy just goes, yeah, sure.
Sure, okay.
It was a little hard to believe. After a dramatic ad break, Harry is checking on Tom, and he looks even worse because now his eyes are purple. It's bad.
Tom is not a good color.
No, and he's forgotten what happened to him, and he temporarily thinks Harry is the one who stabbed him.
Yeah.
And then Tom says, Harry, don't leave me here.
Oh, that.
And they clasp hands like Janeway and Chute a few episodes ago, which I thought was very cute.
Oh, that was just killer, where Tom really weakly says, don't leave me here.
Yeah.
I think it showed that a lot of Tom is the bravado.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Please don't leave me here.
Yeah. But I also guess Tom is also, in a greatly weakened state, and the clamp is probably having more of an effect on him.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Harry has a lie down next to Tom, and he tries to sleep, but he's haunted by the noises from the prison.
Or
it's just noises in his head, but that was bad.
Oh, that was great. But again, I think I took it as that was all noises within the prison.
Yeah.
And I think it gave a really good indication of just the absolute chaos that is going on in there.
Right.
With all these people that are being driven nuts by the clamp.
Later, when Harry steps outside, he starts pacing, thinking about getting out of the chute and into a ship that might be delivering prisoners or food.
Yeah.
But while he's trying to make a plan, the tall guy tries to get him to read his manifesto, and an agitated Harry just bats it away and it flies everywhere.
Oh, dear.
And then he starts trying to rally everyone else to his escape plan, but this goes very badly. And Harry gets conked in the head. He stumbles back to Tom to find him pulling his device apart.
Yeah.
And they get into a battle with Harry pummeling Tom. He finally stops just as he's about to hit him with the now broken pipe.
Oh, that was
rough.
Yeah.
The tall guy says he should kill Tom because he's become a burden. He wants Harry to help him get followers to his manifesto. He gives Harry a knife and tells him to finish off Tom to survive. But Harry says he'd rather die than be a killer. So the tall guy kicks him out.
I think this is where you kind of see where Mr. Manifesto really is just a little crazy. Where he talks about getting followers.
Yeah.
I think he's gone over the edge in a different way.
Yep, definitely.
The final thing I'll say about this scene is Harry really isn't a killer, which is a really bad place to be when you're living in the Thunderdome.
Yeah, that's very true. Voyager is parked just outside of the Akritirian border, and they call the ambassador to have a chat, but he is unmoved. Janeway says she'll trade the people who actually caused the bombing for her people, but he says there's no undoing the conviction. which he says is a very effective deterrent, but I beg to differ, because otherwise you wouldn't be putting so many people in the prisons.
Convictions can't be reversed, even after new evidence.
I think it's because they just dump them in there. They don't know where they are. They don't care.
Yeah.
They just count them all as dead once they're in there.
It sounds very much like Cardassian justice.
Yeah, definitely. You're already guilty.
You wouldn't be on trial if you were innocent. I'll repeat again. I feel this is where Janeway needs to go on a tirade of, I will burn your planet to the ground. Your people will cower in the fear of my name.
Yeah, just start shooting.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't even have to. She could just demonstrate something.
Well, he hangs up, so Janeway changes tactics. She goes to Vel, the captain of the freighter, and strong-arms him into giving her the location and shield codes of the prison. I'm unsure why they have the shield codes, but anyway, they have the shield codes. He tries to negotiate for the release of others, but she is not in the mood to negotiate.
Janeway is just going in hardcore.
Yeah, definitely. She uses the threat of prison for both him and his sister, and he relents. Tuvok asks how we're going to get across the border and attempt the rescue, but Janeway's planning on using Neelix's ship. We've also got this ship from that Oppenheimer guy.
Oh, the guy who invented
season.
the Tetrian Cascade.
Yeah, so we've got a couple.
Oh, we sold that weeks ago.
Oh, maybe we did.
The writers forgot about that one.
Well, I suppose it's possible they actually gave it back to the Talaxians with the body of the guy. Jetrel, that was his name.
I don't think the Talaxians wanted him back.
No, the Talaxians didn't want Jetrel. What? I forget what alien he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. It all gets mixed up in my brain. Back to the pit, which we now know is a space pit.
Yes, space. Can you have a space pit?
Apparently. The vultures are circling a dying Tom for his clothes and boots.
Oh yeah, he's looking a good 75% dead by this point.
Oh, and Harry's trying to fight them off with the broken pipe, saying, "This man is my friend and no one touches him."
Oh yeah.
So he keeps waving the pipe around, but things are looking exceedingly grim.
Yeah, they're slowly closing in on him.
Suddenly, the alarm blares and everyone runs to the chute. But they are in for a surprise when Janeway slides down with a gigantic gun and immediately takes out some prisoners. Amazing.
This, I believe, is the Starfleet equivalent to the squad automatic weapon. And of course, Janeway wants to be the first one down with the biggest gun.
Oh my god, the gun is so big. And Tuvok pops up behind her with just his normal phaser. And you're like,
Right.
Why do you have that gigantic gun? Oh, it's very funny.
Because Janeway just wants to go down and start shooting.
This is all she's ever wanted, is to slide down a chute with a giant gun and start shooting. It's her dream.
What was she saying a couple of weeks ago about...
Yeah, we don't go in guns blazing. No, it was they were quick to draw their phasers.
Yeah, I feel Janeway is just as quick at drawing her phasers as the old-timers.
Yeah.
Those old scientists.
100%. That was funny. Neelix now calls to say 2 Akritirian patrol ships are heading their way, so please move quickly. We do find Harry immediately, and he takes them to Tom. Meanwhile, Neelix is doing a little delay song and dance with the Akritirians saying, "Oh, am I in your space? I had no idea.
Oh.
I thought it was refueling. Look at the man. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain."
Neelix is actually quite effective here.
Well,
I mean, he is a talker. And...
they don't believe him, but they don't just destroy him,
Yeah.
I guess. But it could damage their space station, so they don't want to do that. Well, Janeway calls to say they're on board, and Neelix starts babbling about, "Oh, I know it's tight spaces back there." Janeway says, "Please just get going." And we quickly fly away.
He's so easily distracted.
He is. I think he has a little ADHD going on. But the Akritarian want to board his ship because they know he's lying.
Yeah.
He manages to get away safely and avoid their phaser fire.
He does a bit of fancy flying through the space station, and we get some more space shots, which I'm absolutely in love with.
Well, in sickbay now, Neelix is bragging about his piloting skills, which Cass seems to find very charming. It's kind of cute if you looked at her face. She's really smiling while he's doing that.
Well, he's very full of himself.
Of course. He's overly confident.
Well, it'll be another Neelix story to tell, I think.
Yeah.
You know, over time, that's going to turn into he was pursued by an entire squadron of Akritirian ships.
Definitely. The doctor has removed the implants from Tom and Harry and found they were intended to produce a brain chemical to help stimulate a humanoid's aggressive tendencies.
Yeah.
So this does explain what they were experiencing, and also the tall guy was completely right.
We have to bring up the awesome Janeway maneuver here, because the doctor confirms Lieutenant Paris is fine, thanks to excellent doctoring.
But she kind of smiles. It's not the usual sort of roll her eyes, oh my God, with this guy. But yeah, that does sort of get her.
Yeah.
I do like here when he's talking about the chemical that's being put into the brains of humanoids.
Yeah.
I like when we use the word humanoid to pretend like we would all have the same chemical makeup in our brains as sort of similarly shaped individuals, even though we evolved on completely different planets and different environments.
Yes, have different biology, everything. Yeah. But, you can use the same chemicals in any race.
All right. Well, anyway, Harry is feeling bad for nearly killing Tom, of course.
Right.
And when they get alone out in the hallway, he tells Tom that, I almost killed you. And he's obviously quite upset about it because Tom is just trying to talk about dinner and go to dinner, pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah.
But Tom says all he remembers is Harry shouting that this man is my friend and nobody touches him.
Yeah, Harry is very impacted by what happened. I guess because Harry has a perfect memory of it. And Tom was pretty delirious for most of it.
Well, I suppose. Also, Harry's going to be over it in 30 seconds, so just hold on. Tom suggests that they blow a week's worth of replicator rations on a big fancy dinner and just sort of move on.
Yeah.
And despite this harrowing experience, we will never speak of it again.
And everything's good.
The end. Everything's fine. I'm going to go I think Tom keeps saying he wants cherry pie. Fine. Yep. We'll never talk about it.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, over analysis. What do you have?
Okay. Harry just seems to keep saving Tom. Non sequitur, now here. Anytime Harry is presented with a chance to save Tom, he ends up doing it.
Well, sure. Why wouldn't he? Sort of his job.
Okay, next thing. I think Harry was onto a good idea there. Delivery ships coming to the station. They're probably not expecting anybody to be waiting on the other side of the hatch.
Right. They're not expecting anyone to come up from inside, yeah.
So they would have an element of surprise.
They might be unmanned ships. They might just be little drones that aren't capable of doing anything except go from window to window. I don't know.
Interesting.
But also it could be a ship that has a separate sort of like a cargo bay almost, and it's just automatic. There's not a person there because he's like, we're going to go in there and take him over. And it's like, there might not be anybody there.
Well, it might be good, though, for if it's automated, they could actually get out of the station, get onto the ship.
Well, except there might be no life support because there's no people there.
Ooh. Okay, that could be a problem.
I think it's overly optimistic. You're going to be able to do this. He has to continue to have hope. So I get it.
I guess that's the thing. Leading on from that, I think Harry was kind of missing the fact that pretty much everyone on the station had been driven nuts by that point. He couldn't recruit anyone to help.
Well,
because the clamp had driven pretty much everybody except Mr. Manifesto crazy.
Well, this is where if he had actually listened to Mr. Manifesto, he would have learned that, right? Because he does say that. He's like, the device is actually stopping us from cooperating.
Clearly it was working.
Yeah. But at the same time, he was cooperating with the tall guy, so he had evidence that they could work together.
Maybe it just didn't work on him, and eventually Harry would go nuts. The guy didn't have a manifesto that would teach him how to overcome it. The guy was also delusional in a different way. So eventually Harry would have just gone crazy as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think Harry should have read the manifesto there. I bet it was a classic.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a little rambly.
Next thing, do you think the ambassador was the smuggest authoritarian we've seen in the Delta Quadrant so far? I think he might have actually outdone Leather Suit Guy in Resistance.
Well, the Leather Suit Guy also took pleasure in it. Like, he was sort of gleeful in in his job, whereas this guy is just like, no, get out. We're not listening to you. But he was definitely smug.
Yeah, he was definitely up there on the smug scale.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he was gleeful.
Jamie should have at least tried using phasers on him.
Yeah. I think Plan B would have brought us there.
Yeah. I mean, she made a strategic decision to withdraw and find a way out of this. I guess she runs the risk of, had she gone for conflict, they might have just killed Harry and Tom.
Yeah, you have to be aware that that's a possibility.
She was going for the reasoned Starfleet approach first.
Right.
Next thing. So I'm guessing the default form of government in the Delta Quadrant is oppressive autocracy.
It seems that way. Yeah.
Next thing. I was questioning the Akritirians' reason for having this prison, because it doesn't seem terribly efficient.
No.
They're basically leaving the prisoners to pretty much kill each other over time. So I was thinking maybe it's just to serve as a warning. This is what happens when you oppose us. And you want people to know about this and what happens to them.
Well, it's hard for us to look at it and think that this is an effective deterrent because it's not working or you wouldn't have any more prisons, I guess. But from their point of view, it's probably super cheap, right? They're just dumping people down in this pit that don't need guards.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're not looking after them and they don't check on them.
It serves two purposes. Yeah, it's super cheap.
Yeah, it keeps the budget low and works as a deterrent.
Yeah, well, in their minds.
Doesn't make you look good from the outside, but they don't care.
No. Yeah, I don't think they care about the look.
Clearly not, no.
Next thing, I think we need to deal with the issue that a stab wound that large and that deep, Tom would have died of blood loss in probably minutes.
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, in that location. I guess they must have hit it just wrong or something. I don't know. And it was so deep because it was a huge knife and they went all the way in and then got pulled all the way out. Yeah, no, that would have killed him.
Tom's dead.
Especially since they didn't get the whole tourniquet thing on right away, right? Because he dragged him around for a while.
Right.
But yeah, that is hard to believe he would have survived that.
Next thing, Neelix's rescue plan. If this is their most secure prisoner facility, why are there no automated weapon systems protecting the docking port?
Yeah, no weapons is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing is, again, we've kept the budget down and we have a shield that was supposed to prevent them from getting in, but we got the shield down somehow.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I'm going with these are cheap fascists.
Yeah, they usually are.
These are like the Cardassians, paint over rust.
They keep all the money for themselves.
And leading on from that, I'm assuming Janeway made a few add-ons to Neelix's ship to maybe help the mission.
Maybe, like what?
Upgrade the engines, improve the shielding. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff B'Elanna could do as the Marquis engineer to make Neelix's ship a little bit more survivable.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, that makes me think, why couldn't they use a shuttle? Could you disguise a shuttle to maybe look like a Talaxian ship or camouflage it in some way?
Well, we certainly did that in Deep Space Nine, where we made a shuttle look like a Cardassian ship, right?
Right.
But this was quick and easy. It's just there and it's ready to go.
Oh, true.
And they did get in and out extremely fast. It's not like they dawdled. You know? Right. I mean, it worked. I don't know what you're complaining about. It worked.
Well, I was thinking about how if they'd used the shuttle, they could have beamed Tom and Harry off the station, but that wouldn't have let Janeway go in armed with the biggest gun she could find.
Oh, no, she needed to go in with the gun.
You know, she went straight to the armory and just said, I want the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. Well, Janeway has her own special locker. It's all the biggest guns.
Oh, the back of her ready room, there'll be like a whole cupboard full of like various weapons.
There's a button for the self-destruct and all the guns. Only she has the code.
Ah, got it. And I think my final point is, this is a good example of the Prime Directive, I think, and the moral dilemma. These people are being held in pretty inhumane conditions.
Squalor. Yeah. And they're being tortured.
Yeah. So, you know, the temptation to free as many as you can. At the same time, the limit of the Prime Directive, I guess this is where the Prime Directive comes in useful, because you can hide behind it and go, I wanted to help, but this is this people's way of behaving. Yeah. I can't get involved.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's something that I have in my overanalysis is, you know, did she do the right thing or is what she did wrong? You know, even threatening to trade those kids, because they were just kids, those two, you know, just threatening to trade them without understanding the situation. It's like, are you doing the Starfleet thing? Is that really the right thing? And I think it would have been the time to invoke the Prime Directive. But I guess at the same time, you don't always have to tell us that because we've watched it enough.
Right,
we understand that they're not going to interfere. Yeah.
If you're looking at it from a reasonable Federation Picard standpoint, you would want to find the people responsible because at the end of the day, justice is important. But when you're dealing with what appears on the surface to be an oppressive autocracy, is there any justice?
Yeah, good question. Well, we've done this before where we've known about people who were being sort of brutalized and we just left them behind. It happened in the episode where B'Elanna got split into two, right? We just left all those people there for the Vidians.
Oh, that's right. Vidians to continue their experiments.
It's not without precedent.
And resistance to an extent.
True.
Although they probably changed resistance having killed Leather Guy.
Yeah, there's another Leather Guy right behind him. There always is.
And I think that wraps up my overanalysis.
Well, I only have two things, and I think one we already talked about. Yes. The first thing is, let's talk about shore leave, because apparently Harry and Tom were on shore leave, I guess on this planet. First of all, why are we allowing shore leave when our sole purpose is to get back to the Alpha Quadrant? If we stopped independently for each and every, 140 people on board, we'd never get anywhere. Why would we do that unless we stop for shore leave and everybody gets shore leave, but, or half the crew gets shore leave and then you switch off for the next time. But this seems crazy that there's shore leave makes sense in the Next Generation, in Deep Space Nine, although technically you're not on a ship. But it makes sense when you're not in this situation. This situation, it makes no sense because you're literally going against your mission at this point to get home.
Well, on top of that, I don't know much about the planet. Janeway...
Yeah, she said she didn't know about their politics. What are you sending people there for?
Yeah, it seems extremely dangerous going to a world that you don't know everything about, that is also involved in some kind of uprising or insurgency that's going on.
Totally. Yeah. I suppose that could be going on nearly every planet, some kind of uprising.
Well, if they're all fascists in the Delta Quadrant, yeah, probably.
Was there research just, we asked Neelix and he said, that place is fine. Was that the research?
Oh, so it's Neelix's fault.
Remember the episode where, it's Neelix's fault. Remember the episode where they got all that information about the entire quadrant? I shudder to bring it up. That was Threshold. Remember they'd mapped the entire quadrant in an instant? So I guess that didn't necessarily give them the info about the planets.
That episode was confined to the memory hole.
Yeah, we put that out of our minds. But yeah, I agree. I don't know what you're doing having shore leave on this planet.
I would see valid reasons for going to this planet and maybe trading with them if you need resources. Even if they are this absolutely awful autocracy, your needs might justify dealing with them because you need something. But then it would be an extremely controlled mission with maybe only Neelix and Janeway going down.
I suppose it's possible that what goes on there, they keep it relatively quiet. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they just didn't know. She probably had a conversation with that ambassador. He seemed perfectly lovely, before the bombing. Yeah. And then after the bombing, everything went the other direction. Right. I guess that's possible. But you can't send people down without any info. Yeah. You must have done some research. And to me, that's a waste of time when your goal is to get out of there.
The only reason to go down would be if you needed something.
Yeah, so I just question the whole point of shore leave in Voyager's mission to get back to the Alpha Quadrant.
Agreed. Especially those two, because Tom's going to get into trouble. Look what happened when you left him on his own and he gets accused for murder.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and he's an idiot, so he's going to get into trouble.
And he can be an idiot, yeah.
Yeah. What was that one? Ex post facto?
Yeah. And my other overanalysis was about the tall guy and his ability to be a cult leader, but we already talked about that it was probably mostly in his mind. But also, they needed an ally, so they did need someone, right, to help them, just so that we could have a story.
Yeah, I liked the character in the show. I thought that was a good storytelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Women in the future, not much to say. Not many women in this episode. Very man-heavy, except for Janeway and the sister.
Heavily armed Janeway.
And B'Elanna in the background going, we have to save Tom and Harry. It's like, yeah, girl. Janeway's leadership corner. We've talked about many things here, right? Why didn't we do more research before we went down to the planet? Why is she not using more force or being more forceful to get her people invoking the Prime Directive, right? We've talked about all those things already. The one thing I would say is that Janeway going in guns blazing was awesome. It was so funny because that gun was so ridiculously big. And then when Tuvok turned up with the tiny phaser, I don't know, the whole thing was wild. I really enjoyed that.
This is why I say Janeway is the true spiritual successor to Kirk.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know Kirk's going to be first down that chute with the biggest gun.
Oh, totally, yeah. I would say one thing about her leadership here is that she can't necessarily afford a conflict with her one ship and any planet.
Yeah.
Right? And so that certainly has to be coming into her mind. It's not that we don't have enough firepower to destroy everything, because they're not going to do that. And they can't necessarily afford to create yet another group of people who hate them and want to kill them.
Right.
So I can see why she's constantly trying to negotiate her way out of things. I mean, it does make sense.
Well, she's a very strategic thinker. I think that is, again, one of the skills of Janeway.
Yeah, that's true. All right, that is all I have. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Absolute thumbs up. Great episode. Great performances by Robert Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wang. It was reminiscent of Hard Time with Colm Meaney, which was a great episode. I think it did a lot to cement that friendship of Harry and Tom.
Oh, yeah.
I liked how Harry was just so conflicted. And also, I think Harry... You saw how a lot of this episode was really about Harry sticking to his convictions. He wasn't going to give in and become a killer. And I really liked that. And I thought it came off really well. And of course, most importantly, it's great to get back to picking on Harry Kim. I mean, it's been Tuvok for several episodes. We had a few beat up Tuvoks. It's good to get back to the tradition of beat up on Harry. So thumbs up.
It's interesting what you say about developing their friendship and really cementing it, because there are no female friendships on this ship that we talk about or show at all.
Yeah.
Can you think of one? No, it doesn't exist.
I can't think of one, no.
B'Elanna has no friends because she had Seska. That didn't work out.
Well, B'Elanna can't have any friends because she's Klingon.
Well, she's half human. I mean, she's got Harry as a friend, I guess, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, I just hadn't thought about that till this moment.
B'Elanna's only friend turns out to be an evil Cardassian.
Yeah, and you can't really count Kes and Janeway. Kes kind of, I would say, looks up to Janeway. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I would also give it a thumbs up. I think it's a very good episode. I'm not sure I want to watch it again because it was quite gritty.
It's very gritty.
And I would say, I hate to criticize this, but I don't think... I really like Harry Kim, one of my favorite characters, but I don't think Garrett Wang is the greatest actor. I'm not sure that Robert
this is being cut.
Duncan McNeil is the greatest actor. You know, we've got between Tim Russ and Kate Mulgrew, I'd say those are more the giants in terms of acting on the show. And those two, when they're given stuff like this that's super emotional, I don't always buy it. Yeah. But I do think this is a legitimate Star Trek episode, and it's quite good. I definitely question the, should we just fly away and leave this behind? But I get why we have to.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I would say is, in the same way as Hard Time, even though Hard Time had a grittier ending, where Miles nearly kills himself.
Yeah.
We just move on with our lives like nothing ever happened.
There is that, yes.
It's 90s television. It's not their fault.
True episodic TV. And I can't disagree more with you about Harry and Tom's acting.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I don't think it's great. At least not here. I don't think it's great. That wraps up Season 3, Episode 3. And I think this is our first recording of 2025, isn't it?
This is indeed our first 2025 recording.
Welcome to 2025. You're already there by the time you hear this because we're several weeks ahead.
Yeah, you'll be like weeks in, yeah.
Still new to us. Hopefully nothing has burned down. Well, come back next week for episode 4. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. You can find us on the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, all at ReBingeIT. Or you can also join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.